Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's March 3rd, 2021. I'm Eric. How's everyone doing this morning? I hope you're all doing very, very well. So, as you might have noticed, at least those of you who watch these videos on a regular basis, I've developed a sort of I wouldn't say obsession with Bill Gates, but a focus would be more like it. And there's a reason why my focus has been put on this individual. Actually, and there are quite a few reasons. So I started digging up information, and this guy is tied to a lot of people, a lot of corporations, and a lot of evil. And I've come to the conclusion that Mr. Gates is sort of a public face for an insidious group of people. And we're going to talk about it. But I'm going to hit some news right quick before we get into Mr. Gates. So, let us get started here. As you might have heard, many cities across this nation have been put into societal and economic collapse. These cities, states, they all have a convenient scapegoat for their failures. And of course that scapegoat is V201. Cities have themselves to blame, not V201, for, I call it shithole status, but we'll go with sinkhole status. Okay. Now, this stuff is a little more embedded here where I live than I thought. It's everywhere. Alright. The receding economic tide this past year has revealed many city officials to be naked. We forget amid this crisis or chaos is that their fiscal crises are predated the spread of V201. According to Truth in Accounting, TIA, a non-profit fiscal watchdog, 62 of the 75 largest cities in the U.S. were already in red back in 2019. A lot of you folks out there working for the state, city, or federal government, you might be losing your pension funds. Probably might is being too vague. Alright, so that statistic comes from the latest TIA Financial State of the Crisis report, which came out in the last week of January. The author's objective is to provide citizens with easy-to-understand information and peer comparisons regarding their local government finances. The total liabilities of the 75 most populated U.S. cities amounted to, get this, $333.5 billion at the end of the 2019 fiscal year. Defined pension and medical commitments make up the lion's share of the unfunded debt. So, if you have pension, you might want to look into cashing it out and buying or sitting on it or buying some kind of physical asset. Now, I'd like to do this thing in its entirety, and I might just do that later on. But the fact is, these politicians, among others, bureaucrats, they've been using this V201 as a shield or smokescreen for who's really at fault in the terms of the finances and the collapse of these cities. And as a result of their poor management, or perhaps intentional collapse. God damn. Alright, I had to pause for a moment. My wife and I just landed a contract to provide desserts for, of all places, a country club. So you might be asking, what does this have to do with my main subject matter? Maybe. I don't know. You might be, though. Well, not so long ago, Bill and Melinda Gates were interviewed, and they said, and I'm just paraphrasing here, basically that they never could foresee the financial implications of what they had planned. And I'm relatively certain that they knew full well what the financial implications would be. They knew full well what the consequences to the, not just the American people, but the people of the world would be. They knew that many businesses would end up having to close down permanently as a result of their actions. Now, we are witnessing a exodus before the collapse, complete collapse of these cities. Now listen to me. if you are a person who lives in a big city and you are Caucasian, it is essential that you try to find a way to get out of those cities. You may be asking me why, specifically Caucasian. I mean, I actually do encourage any person not tied to Bolshevik organizations or Zionist organizations or Marxist organizations to get the fuck out of there. Alright, so Americans fled big cities in droves in 2020. And one recent survey discovered that even more Americans are planning to do the same in 2021. The corporate media is attempting to frame this mass exodus as a temporary phenomenon, but there's nothing temporary about it. These people most likely will never return to those places, as they have become utopian or dystopian nightmares. Millions upon millions of people can see that our society is literally melting down all around us, and they want to get somewhere safe while they still can. And listen, again, this stuff is more widespread than embedded in the place I live more than even I thought. This Marxist ideology, this Bolshevik outlook. Perhaps it's not as bad as, say, New York or Seattle or Portland or New York City, but it's still here, embedded. And I'm willing to bet that it's also embedded in your areas. Alright, so in recent weeks, who's the author here? Michael Schneider had written articles about the specific problems that we are witnessing in Chicago, San Francisco, and others like it, but the truth is that virtually all of our major cities are coming apart at the seams. And this is motivating more people than ever to seek greener pastures. And there's going to be a lot of problems with this because our small towns do not have the infrastructure, the road space, the school space, and so on to accommodate such masses of people. So, and again, they knew what the consequences would be resulting from their actions. They had the whole thing war-gamed. Not just them, but the Rockefeller Foundation as well. Probably the World Economic Forum. all these groups are interlocked and marching lockstep together. Now, Bill Gates. As I said before, Bill Gates is simply the public face for an evil, insidious group of people who want you dead, who want your children dead, who want your entire way of life to be uprooted and changed. So is Bill Gates actually a philanthropist, or is he a criminal? Alright, so this comes from Manu, and it's bentriad.wordpress.com. This is where I'm getting this information. And this individual starts off with an attention. That attention is this article and website are completely safe. If you get a security warning, it is only because it contains incriminating information against very powerful people and companies. I'm going to try to get this larger so that I see it well while I'm doing this and I'm not fumbling around. I don't want to constantly be looking up at the big screen TV in front of me. It makes me look like I'm rolling my eyes and constantly looking upward. Alright, so this article of journalistic research focuses on William Gates III. We all know him as Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft. And keep in mind, while he is out there giving all kinds of different advice from healthcare to environmental science. Keep in mind that Bill Gates dropped out of college. Since we like to put such a big emphasis on these things in this country. So William Gates, we don't really need to get into his birthday and all of that, but we should at least know who his mother and father were. And William Henry Gates II is his father. Mother is Mary Ann Maxwell, and they are a family of affluence and power. I wonder if they are related to Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, Jeffrey Epstein's sidekick. His father was an attorney who co-founded Preston, Gates and Eli, which is a law firm with offices across the United States and China. It was highly involved with the Rockefellers. He sired John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil and grandfather of Mary Maxwell, was the president of the National City Bank and the director of the Seattle branch of the Federal Reserve. His grandfather, James Willard Maxwell, was also a banker. and his grandmother, Adele Thompson, a prominent Seattle civic leader. Bill Gates' mother, Mary Maxwell Gates, served as a director or on the board of several companies, including First Interstate Bank Corporation, Unigard Security Insurance Group, Pacific Northwest Bell Telephone Company, and KIRO-TV of Seattle. She was a regent at the University of Washington, and she was appointed to the board of the United Way of America, where she persuaded IBM's CEO John Opel to help her son in his fledgling software venture. Therefore, Bill Gates, or Trey as he was called in the clan, was born into a family of very old money. He is not self-made. He is not a genius as he's portrayed. He is the poster child for pedophilia. Several genealogical sites show that he is even related to the Queen of the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth II, going as far back as 1253 AD, and also to a president of the United States, one Nelson Rockefeller. Microsoft managed to secure contracts with the government before it had a working software, and then with many other governments around the world. A curious fact is that Bill Gates is credited for being responsible for what probably was the first computer virus ever at Computer Centers Corporation, PDP-10. It is rather interesting his interest in viruses, both computer and now medical ones, given his track record of inventing them. Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, in his memoirs, said Bill Gates was a bully who sought to deprive him of his share in a Microsoft fortune as he was recovering from cancer. And a 60 Minutes story on Paul Allen, fully confirming what was said above, quoted him as saying, "Some days working with you is like being in hell." And other media reported that he stated Bill Gates was a ruthless schemer. Now, so Bill Gates has been busy for quite some time, right? He's been, spreading himself around. But he too, as I said, is a puppet for a insidious, evil group of people. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to do this detailed video in a short period of time. It's probably going to take me a minute, and I hope you do bear with me, because this is information that you need to know. If you know yourself and you know your enemy, you need not fear the outcome of 1,000 battles. That comes from The Art of War. Behind William Gates, or Billy the Boy, there seems to be Bain and Company. Founded in 1973 from former top managers of the Boston Consulting Group who sit on the board of the Fed, a Big Three elite consulting, aka the KGB of consulting. Interesting, they would use that comparison, isn't it? Dick Cheney and Mitt Romney, founder of Bain, almost became president of the United States and worked with Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, and they're all former top Bain executives. Bain's most famous clients or companies they actually manage are the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Starbucks, Monsanto, Microsoft, Impossible Burger, Charles Schwab, Del Monte, Kip, Halliburton, De Beers, Dell, Ford, Ryan Seacrest, and a great portion of the Fortune 500 companies. And by the way, a lot of these corporations, companies like Starbucks and Monsanto are also companies where the Gates family is largely invested and who are dealing with very dangerous GMOs causing infertility and a number of other health issues, facing namely public outcry and when putting whole states in court. Their MO seems to be go in, take over, quietly leave the shell intact while placing their own people in positions of power. George Bush Sr. had a number of old friends who were with him since the Skull and Bones. Mossad was that Charles Lee and BlackRock, a CIA arm. Bain has unlimited money as they sit on the board of the Fed. All William Gates III's investments are managed by Bain and Company, and all mergers along with acquisitions as well. They were the ones who directed the investments and buyouts in Monsanto, Starbucks, the Impossible Burger, selling GMOs and glyphosates to the masses. The Good Club seems to be now hard at work in their vision. So, back in 2000, Gates made headlines all over the world when he donated 90% of his wealth, which has almost doubled since then, by the way, and founded the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. See, this was not an act of generosity. This was a way of them keeping that money tax-free. Bill and Melinda Gates is now the largest private foundation in the world, with his wife and father, as well as Warren Buffett, with around $50 billion and assets. He also donated almost all his shares of Microsoft to his own foundation. And, of course, I just mentioned the tax loophole that he created for himself. Now, he coins a term, I think, here, philanthrocapitalism, as an image cleaning scheme is not new. The Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie have famously used it in the past to clean their oil and steel-tainted images. You might recall that the Rockefellers were responsible for the Ludlow massacre in Colorado, killing, by the way, using the National Guard to kill innocent women and children, some of them being burned alive. Again, the National Guard. Who is the National Guard protecting? So, Carnegie was infamous for stating that oh man, that's a mouthful, gestures were crucial for allowing the wealthy to consolidate wealth and ensure manufacturing process were not threatened by an increasingly hostile or militant working class demanding organizational change. And of course, again, the Rockefellers slaughtered all them people. Actually, the National Guard slaughtered all those people on behalf of the Rockefellers. Now, if the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is really a good foundation working for the common good, why would they define their own activities as creative capitalism? Catalytic philanthropy. One would agree that it shouldn't invest in dangerous things, right? But what's going on? However, this foundation has a trust that makes for-profit investments, and we can check out some of these investments to understand just how widespread Bain and Company, Bill Gates, among others, really are. All right, so weapons industry. Airbus, BAE Systems, and United Technologies, according to the 2015 IRS Farms Trust filings. The oil industry. An LA Times investigation found that they had invested $423 million in Eni, Royal Dutch Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Total of France through a French investigative journalist. Though a French investigative journalist says his holdings in oil and gas and mining industry amount to 4,000 million. He's invested in the food industry. Coca-Cola, see why these industries must be boycotted. These companies. Coca-Cola, the world's largest plastic producer. And then this is really to point out the fact that Bill Gates really does not give a shit about the environment. I'm more of an environmentalist than Bill Gates is. Believe me when I tell you, I really do care about the environment. Alright, so McDonald's, GMOs and deforestation. Monsanto, GMOs. Walmart, one of the largest polluters worldwide. He has also invested in Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, and Impossible Foods. Again, these companies must be boycotted. So it looks like that he is doing plenty of suspiciously bad things. Wouldn't you agree? From geoengineering to GMOs, to more GMOs, to asserting digital IDs and vax, replacing the need for microchips to control people, to compulsory vaccination, to more compulsory vaccination, to 5G. He has set up the world's wealthiest foundation as a tax evading scheme. Not just tax evading, but murderous scheme, it would seem. As his trust then invests mostly in oicocidal ventures, or ecocidal ventures, that actually worsen tremendously the plight of those most in need, and that his foundation is supposed to be aiding. Another interesting piece of work is from International Journal of Vaccines and Vaccinations on strange particulate contaminants found in contemporary vaccines. I'm going to repeat that again. This comes from an authoritative source. Another interesting piece of work is from the International Journal of Vaccines and Vaccination on strange particulate contaminants found in contemporary vaccines. And James Colbert, the Colbert Report, has done a magnificent job of documenting in very, very deep detail just who Bill Gates is. So, I do believe he does a podcast, New World, next week as well. That's pretty good. Okay, so this man, a college dropout, has absolutely no medical training, didn't attend any medical school, now has become in charge of the health on the entire planet. How the fuck does that happen? He's also investing in female fertility control. He has $17.9 million invested in a company that is researching implantable contraceptive single-use methods that promise to control women's fertility via wireless. he's also pushing for the implementation of a cashless society. So, you know, this dude is tied to some pretty bad things, okay? No, it's no wonder that he wants to create a task force that essentially shuts down any kind of dissent against him, any kind of bad mouthing him, right? It's no wonder. It's no wonder. So, fact-checking the fact-checkers. Snopes is the world's most known, yet one of the least reliable fact-checking websites. In Portugal, it's Observador and Poligrafo. I don't know if I fucking pronounced that right, but I'm going to leave it with that. Who provide fact-checking for Facebook. Yet they are also private entities with their own agendas and hardly reliable themselves. Petitions against vaccines and ID 2020 were swiftly removed from change.org as Gates funded them with $25 million. He has amassed a vast empire, being considered the wealthiest man in the world by Forbes for 13 times since 2000, and who has turned his attention in recent years to health, becoming the world's foremost player in this arena, and even, according to some people, monopolizing global health. The Lancet Medical Journal has even made an investigation and published a paper in 2009 on their grant-making program calling for further investigations and highlighting conflicts of interests. So, he's also heavily invested in vaccines for SARS-CoV-2. Now, let us get down to Donald Trump and Operation Warp Speed. Because Bill Gates has his hands in that too. Now I'm going to ask you straight up. If Donald Trump is playing ball with Bill Gates, if he has converted much of his family, if not all of them, to Judaism, if he is a diehard Zionist, his public face may be MAGA, but his private face is probably just as evil and insidious as the private face of Bill Gates, Bain Company, the Rockefeller Foundation, Carnegie Foundation, the Ford Foundation. I could go on and on. Halliburton. So, Operation Warp Speed. On May 15th, Donald Trump announced that, in quotes, "Today I want to update you on the next stage of this momentous medical initiative. It's called Operation Warp Speed. That means big, and it means fast. A massive scientific, industrial, and logistical endeavor unlike anything our country has seen since the Manhattan Project. Kind of an odd comparison, wouldn't you think? You really could say that nobody has seen anything like what we're doing, whether it's ventilators or testing. Nobody has seen anything like we're doing now within our country since the Second World War. Incredible. End quote. Usually takes multiple years to make these vaccines. And a little research shows the following. Moncef Slaoui, or just appointed to lead the SARS-CoV Vax project, is an investor and on the board of Moderna, which has just been approved to start, and we already know about all that, right? Although Dr. Fauci keeps reminding us that we still don't know how much, or don't know much about SARS-CoV-2 because it didn't exist until a few months ago, which is a bald-faced lie. Because you remember, I showed you screenshots of testing kits who were invented supposedly by Richard A. Rothschild. So they're also connected to the Rothschild family. Right? So that's a bald-faced lie. He and the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases approved that trial. I can't get too much further into this because I will get banned from YouTube yet again. So, I will be making another video on this topic. Alright? And it will be detailed. And it will only be uploaded into Odysee. So tell me, people, what the fuck is going on? Is this individual making a move to seat himself as king of the world? I don't know. But I do know that Bill Gates is associated with incredibly fucking evil people and corporations. I do know that he has put his hands in every industry that means anything. From education to healthcare to wokeness, all the way across the board. He is an associate of George Soros. He is an associate of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Donald Trump is linked to them. So, let me ask you, is Donald Trump the Trojan horse that I said he was way back in late 2015, 2016, early 2016 and beyond? Seems to me that it was a very accurate analysis. Now, I say this to all of you fucking retards, you Trump-tards, you libtards, you tards. Both sides are working together to achieve the goals set forth in many publications. The Elder Scrolls of Zion or something like that would be one of them. The Zionist, Bolshevik agendas. Both sides are and have been participating in this neo-Bolshevik movement. And soon, very, very soon, we're going to see some very horrific things. Bill Gates and many others of the most wealthy people on this planet, people in high-level power positions, are all involved, and their goal is to eliminate you, period. To eliminate your family. And man, they're doing a pretty good job. The state is allowing this to happen. The government is allowing it to happen. It's funding it with your taxpayer dollars. And indirectly, you're allowing it to happen. Both indirectly and directly. Indirectly with your tax dollars. Indirectly through your turning a blind eye to everything that has occurred over the last few decades. And if you're not that old, then the last couple. But they are going to turn on the people in a major way. And if you want to be fucking Bolsheviks, Marxist out there, Antifa, BLM, and others, police departments, think that you're safe because you're protecting this agenda. When they were done killing the masses in Russia, those people were in turn slaughtered. So, that is your future right along with everybody else's. You might want to keep that in mind. Anyhow, I'll be putting this next one up on Odysee, and it will probably consist of some very detailed information. And again, if you know your enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the outcome of 1,000 battles. So, we're going to get acquainted with our enemy. And I hope that you're all acquainted with yourselves. And until next time, kill the state, live free.